From Headquarters United States Army Reserve Command at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, this is the USARC Report. I'm Marty Martin. Faces continually change in military organizations, and the USARC is no different than any other. Soldiers transition in and out of the headquarters frequently, but the military at the top do as well. Major General Glenn Lesniak is no stranger to the Army Reserve, serving in command and leadership positions, most recently as Commanding General of the 88th Regional Support Command at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. His new USARC job is Deputy Commanding General for Support. In this episode of the USARC Report, we profile this 1976 West Point graduate and New Jersey native.
When I think back on my life, it had a huge impact on the way I look at things today. Number one is my family. I had very strong family values. Good example set for both my mom and dad. You know, my dad is probably my role model. I like the way he interacted with people at work and just people in general. So I think I've modeled myself after the way he interfaces with people and takes certain things seriously and lets other things be as they are. In the 36 years of military experience that I've had, spent first 8 years on active duty, had a 5-year commitment, of course, from West Point, and then stayed around to see if there was something else other than Fort Leonard Wood and Fort Belvoir. Had the opportunity to teach ROTC at University of Connecticut and got to see the outside world wasn't so bad, so I thought I'd give that a try. But I didn't want to give up the 8 years I invested in the Army, so I was able to convert that into reserve service, first in San Antonio, Texas, and then I've spent the bulk of my reserve time with engineer units in predominantly the 411th Engineer Command. And then as a GO, I've been in the Regional Support and Regional Readiness Command arena since 2005. I like to think myself as a participative leader. I like to provide guidance and direction. I expect my subordinate commanders or my subordinate elements to be able to execute based on the guidance that I provide. They've got my full support. You know, they only have that support and trust to lose by the way they operate. And then I'll go out and verify how well I'm communicating and how well my thoughts and policies and guidance make sense to them by going out and sampling.
General Lesniak is one of 2 Deputy Commanding Generals for USARC. Major General Louis Vissot is the Deputy Commanding General for Operations. The Army Reserve is committed to the health, safety, and well-being of its soldiers, civilians, and families. The Army is observing this September as Suicide Prevention Month, and the theme for the observance is, "A healthy force is a ready force." The Chief of the Army Reserve, Lieutenant General Jeffrey Talley, views suicide as more than a personal tragedy. He sees it as an enemy that robs our ranks and families of valued members.
I'm General Jeff Talley, and this is my Command Sergeant Major Mike Schultz, and would like to share with the Army Reserve family a message about resilience. You are the strength of our Army Reserve, and each of you are a vital member of our team. People often ask us, what keeps us up at night? Our response is always the same: the loss of a soldier to the enemy, suicide.
The Army Reserve has suffered the loss of too many soldiers to apparent suicide. Each suicide is a personal tragedy for all those affected by the loss of life. General Talley and I are asking our leaders at all levels to do whatever it takes to prevent these tragedies. We all need to get involved in the lives of our soldiers and show them that we care deeply. And if needed, help is available.
Leaders must foster an environment of genuine care and concern for their soldiers, civilians, and family members. And all of us must take deliberate action to promote healthy command climates that reinforce that the Army is our family and that suicide is preventable. I want to emphasize that seeking help for personal issues is a true sign of strength and maturity.
Behavioral health issues are just as important as physical health issues. It's necessary to keep individuals and the team at the top of their game. We're looking at every approach to address the many challenges that our soldiers, families, and civilians face.
Families stick together and they help each other. The Command Sergeant Major and I are committed to using all resources available to defeat the enemy, suicide. Twice the citizen.
Army strong.
Chief of Staff Army General Raymond Odierno and Sergeant Major of the Army Raymond Chandler are equally concerned with how suicide is affecting the Army's 3 components. September 27th is designated Suicide Stand-Down Day for the Army, Army Reserve, and Army National Guard. A change of command was recently held at USARC Headquarters. Calvin Reimold reports.
The U.S. Forces Command and U.S. Army Reserve Command Special Troops Battalion held its first change of command ceremony. FORSCOM Deputy Commanding General, Lieutenant General William Garrett III, presided over the ceremony that saw Lieutenant Colonel Mark Purdy relinquish his command to Lieutenant Colonel George Ross.
I'm extremely proud and humbled to be taking command and working for two great organizations, Forces Command and U.S. Army Reserve Command. I'm also grateful to be given an opportunity to be of further service to the Army, especially as Battalion Commander. To serve is a great joy in this life.
I think today, and pulling off the ceremony and what we handed off, it's kind of a culminating point. I feel really good about where we are 15 months later.
The STB was established as a result of the BRAC-directed move from Fort McPherson, Georgia to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in order to provide administrative support and services, UCMJ authority, training, physical security supervision, and facility management for the joint FORSCOM USARC headquarters.
It's been 11 years since the United States suffered the terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York, the Pentagon, and the Flight 93 crash in Pennsylvania. Army Reserve soldiers, including many now at USARC, served in the two wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that followed. This week, two USARC events were held to look back and remember September 11, 2001. The USARC Spartans Motorcycle Mentorship Program held a remembrance observance at Fayetteville's Airborne and Special Operations Museum, and participants went on a 102-mile ride along a portion of the North Carolina Blue Star Memorial Highway.
This remembrance ride is one that's near and dear to me. It's something I needed to do this year. My sister is buried here in Spring Lake, North Carolina, and it was time to take a visit, and this was an appropriate ride to come show my respects to her and to thank the families and the soldiers that support what they continue to support.
USARC Deputy Commanding General for Support, Major General Glenn Lesniak, was the guest speaker at a 9/11 memorial ceremony held in USARC headquarters.
That day fundamentally changed our nation and our Army for the better, and the Army has become more versatile to adapt to a changing and volatile world.
The Army Reserve has lost a total of 203 soldiers in contingency operations in support of the global war on terror, 153 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, 48 in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, and 2 soldiers in support of Operation New Dawn. There are more than 15,500 Army Reserve soldiers currently activated in support of contingency operations around the world. 207,086 Army Reserve soldiers have been activated over the last 11 years. And that will do it for this episode of the USARC Report. Thanks for watching.